No, Lego Technics is not the same as Meccano. Meccano was there first, and it's just better. Because it was made in Great Britain. The clue is in the name of where it was made. Hi and welcome back. Intelligence, knowledge and education do not necessarily go hand in hand. I have met some very well educated people who can best be described as being stupid. They might know a lot about one very specialised thing, but be completely ignorant of very common knowledge. I have met people who have little to no formal education, but their breadth and depth of self-taught knowledge was huge. How I see it is this. Intelligence is a skill we are born with. It is yours to use, train, sharpen and lose at your own will. Education, while being formal in most cases, it can also be informal. You have the choice to be educated. Nobody can force it on you with any ease, but it is done by the state and you will learn what they want you to know. Knowledge is a set of skills you learn, either from those that inspire you, self-taught by life's experiences, or just because you want to learn something. Without my formal education, my personal knowledge would have been a difficult course to take. And all three are interlinked in some way or another. This channel has pushed my knowledge forward and has greatly expanded my understanding of the world. But with learning comes a sort of pain, a frustration born of your understanding. The more you know, the more you realise how little you know, and therefore the harder you need to work to understand more. The things that I thought for sure would have been invented by one country or civilization have turned out to be invented by another. It has reshaped my view of my understanding of history, which is great. I love being challenged to learn new things, to expand my character and grow. After all, what is life for but not to enjoy it and gain new knowledge, and also drink tea? And the wind-powered water pump is one such invention. I was sure that this was a Dutch invention. After all, it was a method used by the Netherlands to drain marshland and reclaim vast tracts of sunken land. If you'd asked me when, I would have said probably 1600s, but maybe 1700s. I would have been wrong. When the Roman Empire collapsed, we entered a period called the Dark Ages. Learning and reasoning slowed down, or in some cases stopped. Europe was racked by centuries of warfare, leading to hundreds of years where advancements ceased. But the same is not true of the Mediterranean and the Middle East. Between 600 and 700 AC, or AD, depending on your preferences, the rise of Islam saw a time of learning and education that we failed to rival for thousands of years. Where we burned libraries, killed learned people, and showed no reason the early Islamic culture didn't. I need to add at this point that I'm talking about the early culture, not what we have seen happen in the Middle East recently. The actions of a few have undermined that of all. Knowledge, the sciences and engineering were allowed to flourish. Advancements based on that of the Greeks and Romans were expanded on. Those advancements would make their way eventually to Europe, but only slowly, and not until the 16th century that we start to see them making a real difference. The 16th century sees the Renaissance happen, beginning in Italy and spreading throughout the rest of Europe. The movement affects and re-establishes philosophy, art, music, the sciences, technology, and many other aspects of daily life. The meaning of the word is rebirth, and that is literally what it was. As works were translated from the Muslim originals back into either Latin or Greek, they made their way all over Europe. The event that kick-started the Industrial Revolution, fueling the beginning of Europe's and America's dominance of the world, was built upon the foundation of the work of the Islamic culture and the value it placed upon learning, education and knowledge. And the wind-powered water pump is a good example. The use of the wind-powered pumps has been around since the 9th century. The technology first appeared in what is now modern-day Afghanistan, Iran and Pakistan. The use and design of the pump spread throughout the Muslim culture, and as engineers became more involved, the design was perfected. The technology travelled to both India and China first along the Silk Road, before it arrived in Europe sometime in the late Middle Ages, around the 15th or 16th century. Now, I really wish I had more information on these early designs, the history of the people who invented them and their uses. And I say this because I'm about to talk about Western culture again. But this wasn't designed by our culture. Yes, we made improvements and changed the design, but the origin belongs to another society, and I don't want to rob them of the work that was done by that culture, that in turn gave us the chance to improve on it. Vertical axle windmills were first seen in Europe, in northern France and eastern England, around the 12th century. But the marriage of the vertical windmill to the water pump did not happen till around 1600 in the Netherlands. The need to drain waterlogged tidal land was vital if the country was to find new land. And Simon Steven, a Dutch mathematician and military engineer, was appointed to the task. There are times in my research when you come across people of whom you want to know more. And Simon Steven is one of those, and yet so little is known about him. His younger years would have been deeply affected by the Spanish occupation of the Netherlands, along with the continuous war that was waged by the French at this point. His work on the already existing mills that pumped water was game-changing. He insisted on slowing the drive wheels down, improved the design of how the gear wheels that drove the pumps meshed together. Due to his work, the performance of the pumps was increased threefold. Simon Steven pushed Dutch as a language of science and maths, and many of our modern words in these fields are those that he created and published over 400 years ago. The main mechanical problem of wind-powered water pumps is the two parts of the operation don't always work well together. Wind, by its very nature, is not always constant, but yet water is, and the need to pump at a steady rate is vital for drainage. And then there is a method of raising the water. This model is showing the action of a vacuum pump. The downward stroke would create a vacuum, and then the upward stroke would pull the water out of the well. And of all the designs, it is probably the most inefficient design option. The efficiency of a wind pump is called load matching. The piston pump part of the mechanism requires a fixed stroke to operate, requiring that the energy of the pump is constant, and the pump is only requiring energy that is proportional to the requirements of its action. However, as I said, wind is never constant. Even on a windy day, the speed will vary. Then there is the excessive back torque that the suction part of the cycle imparts on the linkage. Even though this can be eased by adding a counterweight onto the tower, and with the yawing actions of the sails with the wind's direction, allowing the force to be transferred to the descent of the crank. Against this has to be laid the ease of manufacture, transportation, and the fact that the technology can be easily repaired with primitive tools. So, what are the other options? In the Netherlands, the Tasker is powered by common sails, the name given to the traditional design of wooden sails, and attached to an Archimedean screw. It is designed to pump water out of a flooded area into a spillway or dike. Very basic design, with a limited need for infrastructure to operate. The next option is a rope pump. The most primitive of all designs, only requiring a pipe. The rope is either knotted or lumps of clay or metal discs that fit the diameter of the pipe. Water is trapped in between the knots and is then pulled up the pipe. This method is very common in countries where there is limited technology and access to natural plants like bamboo can provide pipes. In Spain, wind-powered Noras, which are gigantic wheels, which in turn support a bucket chain. These windmills remained in use in Spain up to the 1950s. Some things in our lives seem so iconic of a certain part of the world or culture. To me, the wind pump, especially this design, reminds me of what I expect the American or Australian countryside to be dotted with. And at the height of their use in the 1930s in America, there were around 600,000 wind pumps operating. And even today, there are still around 60,000 of them in daily use in the United States. They are the embodiment to me of both of those nations. And the need for me, where I live in Great Britain, to pump water from a well seems strange, when on average we receive 24 millimetres of rain each month, and the water is at the end of a tap. But just watching Brent Underwood's videos of Cerro Gordo and Ghost Town living, you suddenly get a real eye-opener of what having no water means. The basis of this technology was created in the reign of Omar ibn al-Khattab, the second Rashidun Caliphate, in what was referred to as Islamic's golden age, is well documented. Without the advances in engineering, the sharing of knowledge that happened when it did, would we have had the Industrial Revolution? Would we be where we are today because of all those pieces would not have linked? Simon Stiven would not have been introduced to the idea. Would Holland have had the land it has today? And Daniel Halliday, an American who I have not spoken of in this script, but will be spoken of the next time I make a model of a wind pump, would not have designed his breakthrough in the field. Our technology is founded upon the collective work of the whole world. I sit at a computer in what is right now a safe country, in a good, safe society, using technology that I can either manufacture from scratch or repair if it breaks. Fed and supported by advancements made by generations of educated and learned people whose knowledge and intelligence cannot be argued. I am truly blessed.